I didn't realize this till just now, but Victor Davis Hanson was also swatted like I was and dozens of other conservative people. Well, they're not even conservative, just people that believe in the Constitution and believe in America first. He is with me now, military historian, senior fellow at the Hoover Institute, victorhanson.com. It is Victor Davis Hanson. Victor, how are you? Good to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
I didn't realize that. Your house was swatted as well?
It was kind of scary because I was out of town and my wife was here alone. And I've been in the same house for 50 years. I've never had, and I know the Fresno County sheriffs are wonderful people, but
Yeah,
she was here alone and she just happened to be out in our orchard and three armed sheriffs showed up and were, walking through the barnyard and the packing, everything, the grounds. And she
right.
walked up and said, "What's wrong?" And she said, they said, "We've had a 911 call. There's a problem here. I think it was an intruder." And she said, "There's nobody but me." And then they seem very surprised at that. That's never happened to us ever. So I don't know. And she asked him what happened. She said, "We got a call." I think they said plural,
Yeah.
that there was something going on here and we want to investigate. And she said, "There's nothing going on." So she was kind of freaked out because, to be confronted by not just one, but two, but three sheriffs.
Yeah. Well, we had it happen here at 2 o'clock, 2:21 a.m., and I stay up very late, so I got an indication that there was somebody at my front door. And I looked at it, and there was a guy with an AR-15. Now, I'm not against AR-15s. I've got one. But he was definitely holding an AR-15. He looked like he might have been a cop. I couldn't tell. And there were flashlights behind him, and it turned out there were 7 sheriff's deputies at 2:21 a.m. surrounding my house because allegedly I called in that 3 armed men walked in, killed my dogs, and stabbed me a bunch of times, and I'm bleeding out upstairs. Well, luckily, the local sheriff kind of knows who I am, and they knew that there wasn't an upstairs. It's a ranch. And the guy, the way he was describing the scene didn't make any sense either. But they came, like at your house, they came with guns ready. They're going to go save some lives. And Victor, to me, it's attempted murder and domestic terrorism. I mean, that's what it's got to be, right?
Well, what my wife said is, we've had problems before where we've had, a theft or broken into the barn or something, but it's always been just one sheriff. We've never had two, and we've never, much less have three,
Right.
and we've never had three jump out of their car, she said, and start patrolling the grounds looking
Right.
for something. And so she was very scared. And they were very polite. But they didn't really say it was swatting. They just said we had numerous calls or about that there was an incident, you were in trouble. So they were trying to be helpful, but it was kind of scary to confront. She said, coming out of the orchard and all of a sudden seeing three guys armed walking through our whole grounds. I live on a farm, so it was
Right.
kind of never happened before.
Yeah, I've got like 15 acres. We've got a big piece of land here. We're in Texas,
Y-
and in Texas, we
Yeah,
all have our guns nearby. So, I
yeah.
mean, I could have grabbed the gun, walked to my front door, and been shot by a police officer, which is a problem. Victor, is this a typical leftist, we have no argument tactic, do you think?
Yeah, I think what they're doing is they have no political power, no congressional majority, no White House, no Supreme Court. They lost the popular electoral college. So they have a strategy, and it's to delay and disrupt and to intimidate. And sometimes it manifests itself by, attacking Tesla to destroy that company. Sometimes it's swatting. Sometimes it's potty mouth, pornographic Congress people who make fun of disabled people, or
Yes.
they use bad language, or they cut videos with the shit word, or they're
Right.
kickboxing, and then sometimes it's you know Judge Boasberg is the most powerful man in America for 2 or 3 days. He just says, by fiat, I'm now determining national security policy of the United States. So there's 700 and so district judges, half of them at least are liberal. So they're cherry picking judges. And the whole purpose of this is they do not have political power and they do not have an alternate agenda. They don't say, this is the contract. This is the liberal contract for America. Here's how we're going to balance the budget. Here's how we're going to pay down the debt. Here's how we're going to deal with this massive trade deficit. Nothing. It's just chaos and anarchy and frustration because nobody wanted their agenda.
I don't want you to get into their brain because it might hurt your head. You're way
Yeah.
smarter than
Yeah.
they are. But can you give me a reason from their perspective, possibly, as to why they think this is going to work? They're not going to make Elon go broke. They're not going to stop Tesla from making cars. They're not going to stop you and me from saying what we say and saying what we believe. So to what end is all of this terrorism, the Tesla firebombing, the showing up with guns drawn at our houses. What does this accomplish? Because it does, for me, unless they kill us, which I hope they don't, but they're not going to shut us up. What do they get? What are they getting done? Just scare everybody else who's watching?
Well, my wife owns a Tesla, and now she puts it on security, and when she's aware that when she parks it, she could be keyed, and I think a lot of people think if they're conservative, maybe there might be somebody showing up at their home. Uh, there's these campus protests.
Right.
So, and then you have Chuck Schumer saying we're going to go into Republican districts and disrupt. So my point is, they want to create an atmosphere of total chaos, and then they think we're going to go into a collective fetal position, put our hands over our ears, and say, close our eyes and say, well, please, somebody make this all go away. I can't take this. It's just so disruptive. And that's what they think the American people will do. That, you know, there's Greenland, there's Panama, there's Signal, there's all these things. I can't digest it. And then
Right.
when you try to reason with them and say, wait a minute, we are addressing a revolution. We are a counter-revolution trying to bring back the norm. It's not normal to pay $3 billion a day in interest. It's not
Right.
normal to have $1.5 trillion deficit. It's not normal to let in 12 million people illegally and destroy the border. So they have to get the messaging out that this counter-revolution is the sane, sober, and judicious response to lunacy. But they want to disguise that dynamic and just say, you know what, he's the disruptor. Everything's falling apart. And that's what their aim is. They're anarchists just like a 19th century anarchist.
But I mean, what an intelligent answer to an unintelligent act that they're doing, because it's not going to stop people from buying Teslas. I don't think it will. Maybe it will. It's not going to make you and I say, all right, let's open the border. We should let more MS-13 and trendy Aragua in. No, we're not going to do that. Oh, okay, let's spend some more money. You're right, because you swatted my house. I mean, that's just not the end game doesn't fit. You know what I mean? If you've got a goal and you show me how you're going to get to that goal, and then you show me how that gets you to the goal, maybe I can understand it, as irrational as it might be. But Victor, there's no A to B here. There's no way to get where they want to go.
Yes, but what's the alternative? The alternatives, they've been here before. After the Jimmy Carter years, they were out in the wilderness for 12 years. So then Bill Clinton comes in. Nobody wanted the McGovern-Carter left wing, so I'm going to feign that it kind of wasn't sincere, but you look at the 92, 96 Democratic platform, it was legal only immigration. Crime balanced the budget, which he did,
right?
And with help from. So my point is, the logical response would be, wow, we only have 27% of the country likes the Democratic Party. We were repudiated in the last election. So a guy like Fetterman or Josh Shapiro, they're liberals, but they're going to regroup and find out where 51% of the American people are on the border, on crime, on the economy, and they're going to give an alternate agenda. And they know now that if anybody did that in this party, they would be toast, because the party has been hijacked by the Jasmine Crockett's AOC, Bernie Sanders. So 60 or 70% of 27% is running the Democratic Party. And there's very few people. It's 20% of the country, and they're crazy, but they control that party, and they're taking it into crazier territory. And I don't think they have a counter agenda, and I don't think there is such a thing as a Bill Clinton. Even Al Gore looks normal compared to these people.
And that's saying a lot. Bill Clinton had to do with he had to do what the Congress said. Newt Gingrich was masterful in how he made that happen, and Clinton had to moderate. Yeah. But by the way, go and check out his show. The Victor Hanson show is over on Rumble. Go and follow him there. Follow him on X. It's at VD Hanson. Also VictorHanson.com. It is Victor Davis Hanson. So you've got AOC and Bernie that you mentioned that are pretending they're moderate. And they're doing these rallies. Yeah, we should be more moderate. We're not going to let the left wing take over. And then you've got Gavin Newsom claiming that he's not for girls competing against boys anymore, or women competing against men anymore. He's lying, obviously, but he wants to make a run. So do you think that the inner workings of the Democrat Party is so broken that these people have to pretend they're Bill Clinton moderates, or else they have no chance?
Absolutely. I mean, Gavin Newsom, he has Steve Bannon on, or Michael Savage. But at the same time he's doing that, he's blowing up 2 more dams in Marin County.
Right.
And he just blew up 4 on the Klamath River, and he hijacked money that was from a bond, $7 billion to build dams. He just put up aside $50 million to sue Donald Trump. And 50% of all Californians are on Medi-Cal, which is our version of, Medicaid. And there's $7 billion in the red. So and then he just announced that there's no money to continue this Bakersfield to Merced high-speed rail, multi-billion-dollar, fiasco, catastrophe. So he's saying all of this, but he's either terrified of the left-wing Democratic Party or he's part of it because he is doing what they want, is what I'm trying to say, and
I
he's
hear you.
destroying the state.
Well, he is. He's been
He's not.
destroying the state for a long time. What is it, 23
Yeah.
billion that he spent on homelessness? And homelessness has
Yeah.
only gotten worse?
It's worse. We have half the nation's homeless. We have 1/3 of all the welfare recipients. 22% live below the poverty line. He's really accelerated all of that.
And he's
But
the
now
front
he
runner for
knows that
president.
nobody likes it.
And he's the front runner for the Democrats. I mean,
I
help me
think,
understand,
but,
Victor.
Well, we just had a poll that said 48% of all Californians want to consider voting Republican. Just
Wow.
came out.
And in the general election, it was, what was it, 60-40? I think it was 40 statewide voted for Trump, which is a massive number, to be honest.
Yes. Every single state in the country, no matter red or blue, had a larger vote for Trump in 2024 than 2020, and he won 89% of all the counties in the United States. Some of them are very small, obviously, and
Right.
the big ones he might not have, but LA County and stuff like that. But they understand what's going on, that people, they don't want three genders. They do not want 12 million illegal aliens. They don't want 30% increase in staples over 4 years.
Right.
They just don't want what the left has, and the left knows that. But they're like an addict, that they know that the drug is killing them, but yet they need another fix. They can't stop, even though they know it's going to kill them. The left-wing Jacobin is killing them.
No, I agree with you, but we had the same thing in New York in the early 1990s. Suddenly they hit critical mass, and Rudy Giuliani won, and George Pataki won. So at some point, people say, enough is enough. At some point, this is burning me. Let me take it off my arm now. I mean, are we there yet in California, do you think?
I think we're getting there. I think the straw that broke the proverbial camel was the LA fire, not because of just the horrific nature of it, but it took out the Pacific Palisades Malibu corridor, which is the most affluent in California, and it's one of the most left wing. And then they looked at people who caused this misery to them, and they said, well, wait a minute. The mayor was DEI, the mayor was in Ghana, the vice mayor was under surveillance for phoning in a bomb threat.
Wow.
The head of Water and Power was hired as a flunky from PG&E, and they paid her $700,000, and she had the reservoir dry on the top of Pacific Palisades.
Right.
And then the fire chief was talking about DEI. Then the assistant fire chief said she would, if she went into if a white male was in need and they thought that a woman couldn't carry him out, it was the white male's fault for calling her in the first place. So it was just. And they were responsible for all that. And then they said, we don't want this anymore. We lost this beautiful home in our family, and they won't let us and the coastal commit. And so that was sort of, everybody turned to them, and the nation said, you did it. You voted for these people. And they said, yeah, we did. We don't want them anymore.
I pray California wakes up, because it's a beautiful state. We've been there several times. It is so geographically gorgeous. Being run by idiots really just makes me crazy. It's Victor Davis Hanson. Go to victorhanson.com. Check out his Rumble show, the Victor Davis Hanson show over on Rumble. Do not forget to go and subscribe to him. Let's talk about Boasberg. You brought up Boasberg a little while ago. I had Ted Poe on the show yesterday, former judge, former U.S. representative, who knows a lot about the law, and he thinks that he says, as a matter of fact, that Congress can delete any court under the Supreme Court if they want to. The Supreme Court is in the Constitution. No other court is. Not district, not circuit, not anybody. And if they wanted to, and if they had the backbone, that Congress, Speaker Johnson could start this move today if he wanted, they could literally get rid of that court system where Boasberg is trying to say the Article 2 doesn't matter in the Constitution, that the executive has no power. Do you agree that they could delete that court if they wanted to?
I don't know if it would be practical because of the filibuster. I don't know if they could get it through the Senate because they don't have a filibuster. But the Constitution, Article 3, just says the Supreme Court and minor courts such as the Congress may. It doesn't spell out a district court or a circuit court of appeal.
So Congress
We have
made them.
700.
So in theory, Congress could get rid of them.
They could, if they could get it through, if
Yeah.
they could override the filibuster. But the problem is that we have about 700 of these districts. They're the lowest of the triad, and probably 350 or 400 of them are left wing. And out of that 400, there's probably 40 or 50 that will do anything, anytime, anywhere about anything. And they know them and they have them on a list and they cherry pick them. And so this judge is the most powerful man in America right now. He can stop anything. It's
He could
sort
turn
of like
planes around in midair. He could turn planes around.
yeah.
He thinks he
It
can.
would be as if, I work at Stanford. It would be as all I have a reading list for a class at Stanford, and all of a sudden every university in the United States has to follow my reading list because I say so, even though there's thousands of other people. That's what
I mean,
he's
I
done.
laugh. I laugh because it's so stupid. I mean, Victor, it's
It
just
is.
that dumb, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But these are fanatics. They believe they're morally and intellectually superior to everybody else, and therefore they deserve certain compensation and rights and exemptions. And the reason they hate Trump is they look back and they said, we could handle George H.W. Bush, we could handle George W. Bush, we could handle Romney and McCain, but this guy is on to us that we had a cultural, economic, political, social revolution, and he wants to undo it. So he's looking at PBS, he's looking at Columbia, he's looking at all the sources of our influence and power. And that's what terrifies them. And then he's got that guy who has the knack and the ability, as he did at Twitter and all these other places, to go in, clean house, and make it efficient. And that terrifies them. They really do. They're terrified.
It's Victor Davis Hanson. Go and check out his show over on Rumble. Don't forget to do that. It's also victorhanson.com. So what is the remedy then? You're right. It's not filibuster proof. You're not going to get 60 votes to get rid of a circuit or a trial judge who thinks he's got all the power in the world. That this Article 2 doesn't mean anything. I'm Boasberg. I can stop it. So what should you do? Because when you said let's impeach him, you had John Roberts say, let's not impeach.
No.
Just go through the appellate system. So what's the recourse?
The recourse is to put in the public sphere to say to John Roberts, you've got a monumental decision to make, because if you don't make it, your judiciary will be totally discredited because you have rogue judges that have hijacked the governance of the United States, and you've got to act. And you probably have the votes to return these people to their proper sphere. And if you don't do it, and you don't do it immediately, we're going to have I don't know what we're going to have, but we won't have a government because these people will not stop. Each time Judge Furman says that Mr. Khalil doesn't have to go back, even though he's just was on a student visa and he abused it,
Right.
or each time Ana Reyes in Washington starts to do, it gets infectious, and they think, you know what, we got away with it. Now we're going to get away, and Mark Elias and all this money, they're going to just keep cherry picking me. I'm going to be in. I mean, these judges are really narcissistic. They think they love what's going on. Just like we had Ingor on, and we had Mershon,
Right.
and we had the Judge Kaplan and the E. Jean Carroll, and for 4 years they went crazy and they tried to bankrupt Trump. They tried to put him in jail, and Robert Mueller for 22 months hijacked that first term. So they look at all this delay and they think, you know what? We're not constructive people, but we were very successful at being disruptive, and that's what they are.
Well, they absolutely are. So if the Supreme Court makes the wrong decision, and Amy Coney Barrett is a wild card because she said she was a textualist and she's not. If it makes the wrong decision, Victor, a very simple question. Does that mean that the three co-equal branches just go away and the judicial branch is the absolute god of the government? They can do anything they want, anytime they want?
Well, it's kind of scary because it puts us kind of like in 1859 or 60, because when one side starts it, and we've already seen the lawfare, and we've seen efforts to take a candidate off the ballot, and we've seen these district judges. So what's going to? I know that they've done more suits to stop Trump in 1 month than the Republicans did in 4 years.
Yes.
But they should know what's going to happen when the Republicans are in the minority, if that ever, that'll happen again. They'll just sue, 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 and they will cherry pick conservative judges. So far, it's always been the Republicans play by the Marquess of Queensberry rules. We don't
Right.
go down to their level, and then they take advantage of this. But I think people are learning now. The only thing they understand is tit for tat, tit for tat. You do this, we do it double until you stop. Because if we both keep it's going to destroy the country, and you know that, and you think that we're going to restrain ourselves. So, and you can see Donald Trump is already coming to that conclusion. Pam Bondi has just said, you know what, we're not going to do the 2020 stuff where you rioted for 4 months. If
Right.
you get convicted of firebombing at Tesla, there's going to be no plea bargaining, no charges dropped. It's going to be a federal racketeering offense, and you're going to go to prison for 20 years. So that's what they got to do, and they just have to say, we're not going to play that game anymore. It's not going to be, we're going to turn the other cheek. I wish it was. As a Christian, I believe in the Sermon of the Mount. But these people, they require eye for an eye. I hate to say it, an Old Testament remedy.
Right. Well, Chuck Schumer bragged about shoving 235 judges down right at the end of the Biden administration just to have them stop Trump. He literally said, progressives to stop Trump. It's Victor Davis Hanson. I've taken a lot of your time. If you don't mind, just one last thing, because this question comes up all the time. Does Trump or does any president have the ability to say no to a court order if the court order is illegal? And I'll frame it this way, as you already know, but I want to frame it for the audience. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798 has been tried and true law that's been challenged, and it's won. It's above reproach for 227 years. So is there some right that a president has to say, hey, court system, this has been tried and true. You can't just tell me it's not valid anymore because it's me. So does he? The simple question is, does he have the right to say no to this court?
Well, we've already adjudicated that issue with Joe Biden because he canceled billions of dollars of student debt. They went up to the Supreme Court. They said that was unconstitutional. And then he gave a State of the Union address, and he said, hey, I got around the Supreme Court. I dealt with him. And then they said, you've got to build the wall. A congressionally passed bill through both houses of Congress. It went to you. It went to Donald Trump. He signed it. It says, here's the money and here's the wall. And he said, not me, not 1 foot of wall. And so he just, by executive fiat, just said, I'm not going to spend any congressional amount of money. And of course, this is what they're angry about. They said, well, we funded USAID. Well, you funded USAID just like Trump funded the wall. And you set the precedent that a president does not have to use that money. So Trump's just following your example. So
actually, I can argue that they're different because the wall was specifically for the wall. The money was appropriated, build the wall. The USAID stuff was like, hey, here's $38 to $40 billion. Do what you want. And now you're telling me you can't go in and stop fraudulent things? Of course you can. So it's actually, it's similar, but it's different.
Yes. So they've set a lot of precedents that they're not going to like. And I think Donald Trump he's flooding the zone, and I think he's going to get through this. I think finally Roberts and the court will do the right thing, but it'll take too long. And then we'll see what's going to be interesting is what's next. If they lose these district court judges, then what are they left with? Because I don't think this is going to make them, get a big wave in the midterm.
Because they're on the wrong side of a bunch of 70-30, 80-20 issues. You're right.
They are. They are.
And every single one, they're on the wrong side.
And I would predict that if they lose the judicial angle, it's going to be doubling down on the swatting, doubling down on the Tesla stuff, doubling down on Al Green with his cane, doubling down with the videos, the smutty videos, doubling down on all of that street theater, because that's all they have left.
As long as people realize that's what it is, it's street theater, I think that there's a small minority that might get what they're laying down. Everybody else thinks they're a bunch of fools. In fact, I had the person who's taking on Jasmine Crockett on yesterday. His name is Shondon Daniels, and he's from North Texas. He's going to be a great representative. He's a Republican. If you can get him in there, you're going to have people like this just shown the door. You can't have her there as long as Maxine Waters has been there, saying the same dumb things for 30 and 40 years. It doesn't make sense. I think America is done with it, Victor. I really do.
I hope so. They got done with Jamal Bowman, fire,
and Cori Bush.
And Cori Bush as well. And she and her husband are facing criminal charges. So There is a nemesis. There's a way of the universe that tries to correct. I believe that, karma, whatever term each culture calls it. But there are forces that try to stop this madness. And I think the American people feel that those forces are on their side and they're going to stop it.
Keep up the amazing work. I really appreciate you coming on. Victor Davis Hanson, military historian, of course, senior fellow, whoever institution or institute, victorhanson.com. Go there. Go to @VD Hanson over on X and check out his show over on Rumble. Come back anytime, sir. I really appreciate the knowledge.
Thank you.
All right. We're back after this. Stay right here.